Hey, welcome to Stocks, Tech, and Beer, where we grab a cold one and plot about how to retire rich. And that's what we're going to talk about today, about becoming a rich retiree. I'm going to tell you about how easy it is to become an IRA millionaire. And I mean ridiculously easy to do this. So this is going to be a short video. It's going to be concise and to the point. But first, quick disclaimer, this isn't financial advice. I'm not really giving out much advice here anyways. But, I'm just a dude sitting here talking about his retirement account and drinking a beer. So that's the kind of advice you're getting here, and it's free, so you get what you pay for, right? So the number one key to getting rich in an IRA is to start early, because that allows your investments more time to compound. I think it was Einstein said the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest, and he's right, because as interest compounds, gets bigger and bigger and bigger, your pot of money gets bigger as that interest gets put on it, and it just snowballs, like just downhill, snowballs, gets bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually you're making a ton of money on your interest and you can live off that alone. And that's the ultimate goal of having that kind of money. And retiring rich gives you options too. You can do what you want. Like, nobody wants to be that person that retires and is living on like $1,200 a month in Social Security. Like, you have all this time in the world, but you can't do anything because you don't have any money. You're just living at that point, and you're sitting around watching TV, or I don't know what's on the daytime. There's nothing. I want you to have that good life. And if you start earlier, you have that option, because if you can start 40 years before you want to retire, so like if you're 30 right now, you're going to retire by the time you're 70. Like, you have 40 years to build up your wealth. And if you have 40 years to grow, you can do that on just $2,500 a year. That's all it takes, or $210 or so a month. Most of us can spare an extra $210 a month. That's really just going from a delicious craft beer down to something passable like a Busch Light would save you at least $100 probably. And there's other things you could do too. Just save more. Instead of eating out one time, stay at home and have some ramen, whatever. Or start a side gig like YouTube videos. And maybe make some money there, maybe not, but I'm not spending much money doing this either, and I find it entertaining. So if you can do that, just save $2,500 a year, and if you can make just over 9% over those 40 years on that, which is really easy in low-cost index funds, that's the market's historical return, is like 9-10%, depending on what you buy and when you start. You can get that millionaire status by the time you retire. If anyone's done the math, $2,500 over 40 years, you just have to save $100,000 in total to become a millionaire. That's almost nothing. And the earlier you start, the less money you have to put in. If you get 9.7% interest on your money from just 30 years until retirement, you have to put in $180,000. And that's a considerable amount of money more to get to that same millionaire status. 9.7% is not that hard, right? I just recorded a video the other day. Well, 9.7% of interest isn't that hard. I told you how to do that with passive income strategies. Here, you'll see a button. Click on that if you want to see what those three strategies are. Super easy to do. Anyone can do that. You can make 10 to 12% doing those strategies pretty easily. And if you could have some active strategies, which I'm working on a video for that as well, you make probably up to 18% annually. That makes a ton of money. So if you have 40 years, $2,500 invested a year, you make 12% on your investments during those 40 years, you're going to have $1.9 million. And if you can make 18% with some of these passive investment strategies, I don't even know if you're going to believe my number, but let me just get this right. You'll end up with $10 million in your account if you get 18% interest annually on those returns. And it's possible with a couple active strategies that you could do. Things like selling puts. I'll get into that a little more in a future video. And once I do, I'll put a button on here so you can click on that and get there. But it's not ready yet. But let's say you don't have 40 years. Let's say you only have 30 years. What do you need? I'm going to check the numbers. So if you have 30 years and you haven't saved up anything yet, you need to save $6,000 a year. And that's the max you can put in your IRA. That's probably just a coincidence that number matches up. Now, if you are running a little late and you need to, hurry it up, you probably don't want to use these active strategies, because if you do that and you put in that $2,500 a year and you make 18%, you end up with $1.9 million, which still that's like my base to where I want to retire in 30, 40 years is $1.9 million. That's kind of low, because your dollars are going to be worth about, I'm going to say half of what they are now in 30 years, maybe less. because of the inflationary environment that I've been talking about if you're watching my other videos. So it might be worth just a third, but at $2 million, I think we can easily make 5% interest on that $2 million. That gives you $100K to live on right now, or in the future you have $100K, but right now that's like $50,000. And that's probably what most people spend to do basic things that they want to do. And when you're retired, you're going to want to have more money to do things. You got more time, and anything costs money to do. So, I mean, if you wait 20 years, I didn't even do the numbers, but I mean, you just got to save a ton of money, and you're going to be, you want to start now, and you're going to want to push out those amounts. You might get lucky and have Social Security, which will help you out too, and you don't need to have quite as much. But if you haven't saved anything and you're less than 20 years from retirement, so you think, you might not have the lifestyle you're dreaming of unless you strike it rich somehow. But definitely, as soon as possible, talk to a financial advisor or get your financial house in order, because the sooner you start, the more compounding you get and the more you'll have. But maybe you've got some pension thing rolling and you don't really need to save money. So you have a pension that's going to pay you a few $1,000s a month. Oh, hey, good on you for having that good job that pays you that. And you might not need to save as much. Social Security, you won't have to save as much either. I'm not counting on that by the time I retire. I just don't think it'll be there. If it is, it'll be a shell of what it is now. And it's not something to rely on. I like to take my destiny in my own hands and do that. So that's why I started my retirement account early on. I didn't save too much right away. I still like to have expenses. But by the time you're 30, you got to start, hopefully you got your job in order and you can start saving up, saving up some money and setting aside for the future. And it should really be your goal. 20s, have some fun. 30s, time to get serious. And then 40s, you better be saving, even with the family. You got to be doing that. So, it's really easy. You got time. Like I said, just $2,500 a month is really all it takes if you start with 40 years in advance. Yeah, if you haven't saved up and you think you're going to retire in 10, 20 years, you haven't started with anything, I don't want to tell you, you got to save a ton of money right now to get that kind of freedom that you're going to want going forward there. Otherwise, you're just going to run out of money and you're going to be that old person sitting around watching their soaps or Maury or I don't know whatever's on in the daytime. It's all garbage, and you'll be bored out of your mind. So just plan ahead, let compounding work for you. And like I said, it's extremely easy, just $2,500 a year, $210 a month. I can do the daily calculation. I don't know what that is, $7 or so. I mean, that's fancy coffee, dinner out. There's ways to get around that or make some more money. It's not hard to make an extra $100 a month. There's lots of ways. Other channels show you how to do that. Do that, get ahead, and retire rich, and we'll laugh, and we'll live the high life together in retirement. Cheers, friend.